We're a culture that judges.
Especially in the Latino community.
Estás loca.
Crazy.
Overly sensitive.
Te faltan sesos.
Weak-minded. Not trying hard enough. It's just her hormones, or she's just having a bad day, and they'll dismiss it.
We're a culture that just points the finger and says you have to be better. We're a culture that avoids.
It's embarrassing or it's shameful.
We want to look good all the time. And it's detrimental to our youth. It's detrimental to our society. Not all mental health issues are a result of trauma. There are several reasons why somebody can develop a mental illness. We're never going to know what those causes are unless somebody seeks treatment. And people are not going to seek treatment if mental health issues are stigmatized.
I have these thoughts sometimes about, I don't want to be here anymore, or what would happen if I died right now?
My first attempt at suicide was when I was in 8th grade, and that was when I tried to overdose and was not successful.
I don't remember how young I was when it started, but I know that it happened often enough that I can't keep track.
At home, it was just a lot of like, oh, you're worthless, I don't love you, like, you're never gonna be anyone in life, your own dad didn't want you, like, why would I want you? And it was just a lot of verbal and then a lot of physical, because he was so easily triggered and he had a lot of anger issues, so it was just easy for him to take it out on a child. Hearing people talk about mental health made me feel like I genuinely had no one to go to, because my town's already really small and it's kind of conservative. School didn't tell us about what it was to be sad or depressed or feel like you didn't want to come to school. So it made it feel like there was no one there for you, especially in the Latino community, because they didn't even want to talk about it. You would bring it up and be like, no, like, that's it, like, we're not having this conversation. I would actually get hit in front of a teacher and he didn't care. So it was kind of clear to me that the school didn't care about my bullying. Yeah, because there was a boy who used to like hit me and grab me by the arm, and like he would leave like actual marks on me, and he would do it in front of the teacher, and the teacher would kind of just turn a blind eye. Same thing with an English teacher that I had. People would say stuff and she would kind of pretend like she didn't hear what was just said to me. So it made me feel like I couldn't trust a teacher or go to a teacher. There was only one teacher my freshman year who was like, that's not okay, like, you don't have to be going through this. But our school's no bullying tolerance was actually fake. It was just like a mask,
My grandpa had got diagnosed with liver cancer in 6th grade. I had to watch it all happen. My grandpa was one of my favorite people. Watching him die was extremely hard, and having everyone come in and out was extremely hard, because a lot of people make me nervous, especially family. So that was kind of just like all my fears put into one. Hospice did come to our house once, and they explained everything to the adults and everything. I wasn't a part of that meeting because I had watched the little kids, and sometimes I wish I would have been a part of it, because it would have helped me kind of start processing what was happening. But instead I kind of I was trying not to make it real in my mind, and I also was trying not to embrace what I would feel. So, even at some points I would lie to my therapist, and I was like, I saw him die, so it's fine. This is completely okay, because it's over, And then in 8th grade of February, he did pass away. It was in the morning. Not a lot of people knew what was going on in my house, not even a lot of my friends. If I shared it, it became real. Like, it became straight in my face real. And I had to get up and go to school. I couldn't stay in my house. I only told one of my teachers, and we talked about it, and he was extremely supportive. My friend, when I told her that he had died, she kind of didn't know what to do, which, I honestly understand, because I didn't know what to do with this information. So with her, she kind of was trying to be supportive, but it kind of just made me feel flustered, because I was trying to make it not almost real. So I was kind of like, just stop talking about it. I'm okay. So let's just keep moving on. And since I approached it that way, my friends, when I did decide to start grieving about this, they didn't understand. And they got very confrontational about it, and they decided that they could not be my friend anymore because I was grieving too long. My friends didn't know how to approach it, so they my friends would just not talk about it. And I wouldn't talk about it either. So, it wasn't technically happening if no one's acknowledging it. Then my parents, with that happening, they did kind of start bumping heads because no one wanted to talk about it.
Tres de ellas tienen problemas con salud mental. Una de mis hijas era como muy callada, era como muy reservada y sí se le dio muy duro la depresión. No se me vino a la mente de decir, la voy a llevar a que agarre terapia. No pensé en eso. Hasta ahora que ya mis otras dos hijas han recibido terapia, pienso y digo, ¿por qué no la llevé cuando era más chica, cuando ella lo necesitaba? Pero no pensé. O como ahorita yo me siento mal no haberle dado ese apoyo, esa ayuda cuando ella lo necesitaba, cuando era más chica. Y en vez de buscarle ayuda, como yo en mi caso, empecé a gritarle, digo, no, eso no se hace. Pero pues ni yo todavía en ese entonces yo no tenía mucho conocimiento.
So in the 4 years that I've been at Ventura High School, we've had school shooting threats and we've had a suicide. So obviously we linked those issues with mental health. In one of the cause youth meetings, the youth there and we decided that mental health is the biggest issue that we're facing right now. We also spoke on the people in charge of making those decisions, and it's the district. So we decided that we were going to confront the board members at the district, and that's exactly what we did.
I was self-harming almost every day, and I was very excessive because I would do like my whole leg in a day, like one side. And to the point where I would run out of space, but try to just make space and open up old wounds. I would let everything kind of bottle up. I always was taught that calladita te miras más bonita. So I wasn't allowed to express anger or sadness, and I would leave it inside of me. And on top of that, I didn't want to be an angry person because I saw how my stepdad was. And I would have little bursts, I guess is what would happen. And during those little bursts, I would go into the bathroom, lock myself up, and it would take me a little bit to build up to it because I think I knew it was wrong subconsciously, but I just wanted to forget about it, distracting my mind. And I was distracted as to what I was doing, and just for a second, I would forget about what I had just been told by my stepdad or my mom.
At first, I developed binge eating disorder, so I started to extremely overeat in certain periods of time, and I would feel like I lost complete control. And it was completely scary because I would eat all this food and then I would kind of come out of it and I'd be like, what just happened, And then with that, I would feel so disappointed, guilty in myself, and I would then try to restrict. I would do yo-yo dieting. And then in 9th grade, I started to extremely restrict what I was eating. I stopped eating breakfast at first, and I was like, I can eat lunch and dinner, it'd be completely fine. And started with that, and then it ended up being I would only eat food on Friday, and I would not eat the rest of the week.
Some negative comments that I heard were mostly from the district themselves, simply saying, there's enough, what more do you want? I think the reason the district said that was because they do try to keep the resources that we do already have discreet or confidential, but if it's so hidden, how are people gonna know that resource is there? The way that I felt was I was pretty outraged because We were physically there. We had proof that students were asking for help. They were seriously calling for help, and they were being ignored in a way because they were just saying, okay, it is what it is. We gave you what you have. That's it. Do we, and it was sad. Those who supported our campaign were mostly youth. We had parents, teachers, district staff, other community members, and third-party qualified organizations. So the issue obviously wasn't just going to go away just because they said that there were enough resources. So we continued to go to the school board meetings, and we continued to address the issue. And we, in solidarity with Black Lives Matter, we asked for less funding for on-campus police officers and more funding for therapists. So therapists, not cops. That's what it was called because the district was funding almost $400,000 annually to the salaries of having police officers on campus. So we asked them to instead have less police officers on campus and put some of that funding towards therapists instead.
I told my best friend, hey, can I tell you something? Can we go to the bathroom really quick? And I was just like, please promise me that you won't freak out and like you won't stop being my friend, like essentially. And then she's like, oh yeah, like no worries, like I got you. And like we go to the bathroom and like it just like lift up, it just lift up my my sleeve. And she's just like, oh my God, because she had never seen something like that. And I was just like, yeah, I don't know how to stop because like I knew it was getting really, really bad. And she was like, no, like I'm here for you, like let's get through this. And that was like the first time, but like her shock, like her reaction was very much like, oh my God, like why? Like I don't understand this, and I know that I don't understand this, but I'm not gonna stop being there for you. Like it made me cry. Like I had never heard that. Oh, like I don't understand that, so I'm actually gonna be here for you, because it was like, I don't understand that, I'm not gonna be there for you. And it was like the opposite. I felt immense guilt that I was doing that because her reaction solidified how bad it had gotten, because I had an idea, but I didn't think it was that bad. And her reaction really solidified, oh my gosh, like what's going on in your home life that is making you react this way? Her parent became aware of it, and that's when I started spending a little more time at their house. And they were kind of just like, I'm sorry, but you know, like it'll get better eventually. And it was just a lot of it, this isn't gonna be forever. Her parent didn't know the severity of my self-harm. She knew that my home wasn't the best, and her mom did try to step in a little bit. She started going over to talk to my mom, made a conscious effort to kind of just keep the peace in that way, because if she was over, my parents were gonna be more toned down because they knew how to put up an act. My mom would tell me, oh, if you tell anyone, like we could lose everything, like he could lose the house. And I was told that if I were to reach out to anyone, like it would be a lot worse, because like you're gonna be taken away. And like they would let me know that the foster system was a lot worse than like what was gonna be at home. They're like, oh, like a lot worse things could happen to you if you leave, like, and he's gonna lose this house and everything that he worked for. And I was also kind of guilt tripped too, because he would be like, oh, well, I gave you your citizenship, and he made me feel like I owed him something.
I switched high schools. I was not happy at the high school I was at, so that was one thing that helped me feel better. Vista helped me feel like I was less of an outsider. I had been at Vista for probably about a year, and I had joined the peer mentoring club, and that is, I help new students and also reoccurring students that are just struggling. And I was having to start to talk to new people and stuff, and I was so tired all the time, and just I felt terrible that I felt like I couldn't even keep up with that. So I kind of started realizing what I was doing to my body, as well as, you know, I had this idea in my mind that when I get to a certain weight, when I get skinny, that everything was going to be fixed, that everything was going to be so great and everything. And when I got down to my lowest, I noticed everything didn't, this is not what was supposed to happen. And it took the rose tinted glasses off of my eating disorder. And I realized how much damage it was doing to me versus if it was benefiting me. And then I finally came to terms that I had an eating disorder. I was in denial for a very long time because I wanted to believe so bad that I was okay now, that life could just calm down now because I was okay. So then when I did come to terms, I did bring it up to my mom, and for my mom, it did take her a while to grasp what was happening because she didn't understand why. She saw it as, we just left therapy, why is this happening again? And she would tell me, she was like, just use what you learned beforehand. And I tried to explain to her, I was like, this is completely different. This is something completely different, and I don't know. It's out of my control. I felt so in control, but it really was controlling me.
When I did open up to my mom about the self-harm, she freaked out on me. She flipped the switch, and everything got so much worse after that. She was like, oh, what is this? She started yelling at me. She was like, why are you doing this? She was like, what's wrong with you? And she accused me of being crazy. And I told her, well, I'm depressed and I feel like I want to kill myself. And she's like, oh, you want to kill yourself? And she goes in the kitchen drawer, pulls out a knife, gives me the knife and says, do it. You don't have the courage to kill yourself. I was kind of stunned, and I was just like, did my mom just tell me? And I almost wanted to prove her wrong. That's the first thought that I got in my head was, I'm gonna kill myself tonight and I'm gonna prove her wrong. And that was the very first thought that I got. And then I started to cry because I was just like, I can't believe my mom's telling me that I don't have the courage. And after that, she took my iPod away. I wasn't allowed to hang out with friends. It was very strict as to how go to school, come back. And the free time that I was getting that was helping me kind of get away from it all was all taken from me, which made it a lot worse. A few months into basically being confined, I tried to overdose. I didn't have anything that helped me. No music, no communication with friends, only school and back home. And home was where it was the worst because I was just so tired of it all. My last attempt was when I was 18 years old. I was no longer at home because I had been kicked out from 16 to 18. Someone who I was dating at the time stopped me from doing it. The person knew that I thought about that bridge a lot. Well, this person who stopped me from attempting suicide was actually an abuser of mine. So they kind of made me feel like I was crazy for doing it. They're like, why would you do that? They told me, are you fucking dumb? And that was the first thing that they told me. I was so frustrated. I was just like, why would you do that? You literally just took my last chance, because I had told myself that if this wasn't successful, then I wasn't going to try it ever again, because I had seen this as I need to stop. If it's either this one or I'm done.
When I think about my mental health journey, I think of feelings of being alone and having to suppress what I was going through. I've experienced trauma at the age of 5, and as a result of not having healthy coping mechanism and a supportive family, I became a teen runaway. And being out on the streets is not a safe place, so I experienced additional sexual trauma. I internalized it. I kept it to myself, because when I tried to tell what had happened to me as a young child, nobody listened, nobody acknowledged. So there was no space for me to speak about what had happened to me. All there was shame and guilt and fear. And so I kept that to myself, and it turned into self-harm and depression. And when you don't seek treatment, it just continues. You don't get the help you need. You're in situations that add more traumas to your life and put you in danger. And I was trying to get help. When you think about behavior as a form of communication, I was trying to communicate by running away. When I was arrested several times, I was trying to communicate to the police officers, don't take me home. That's not a safe place for me. I need help. And if they would have recognized this as a repeat runaway, that I was somebody that needed help. I wasn't a bad kid. I just needed help.
I started going to therapy because One Step LOS offered 10 free sessions of therapy. I got to meet Kate English in high school, and she was someone big for me because she gave me a safe space at One Step. I enrolled and I signed up for it because you had to be in the LGBTQ plus community or something along those lines to be able to qualify. Kate was someone who was trying to kind of push me into therapy, but I never really wanted to go into therapy. She was asking like the difficult questions, like why do you feel like this? Like do you think it's rooted to how you were raised? And she was actually trying to get to the root of it all. And it made it kind of difficult because I never realized how not okay I was about talking about my feelings. Like I was like, no, I don't want to talk about it. Like I was just so ready to put up a wall. And she was like, no, but we have to. And she would like work with me. And even though we had 10 sessions, like she was like, you know, if not this first session, the next one for sure. And she was like, you know, we can always add an extension. And she would kind of, she never tried to rush me. And I think that's what was really major, was that if I didn't want to talk to during therapy or really say a whole lot, she was like, okay, we can just sit here in silence, but I hate sitting in silence. So I was like, well, I don't want to do that. I'll let you know a little bit else. It was different because she did try to provide a safe space.
Once my mom finally came around to it, she called the Ventura County Behavioral Health for teens. They did an intake on me and they decided that they want me to stay with them because just in case my case gets high risk again. So I stayed with them, and then I got a therapist, and that therapist ended up leaving. So I got a different therapist, and that therapist I didn't really click with. So I got a different therapist, and I started working with her, and she helped me start my eating disorder recovery. And then she left. So I have my now therapist, and she's great. I love her. And I also work with TBS services. They're kind of like a mini therapist almost, and she works with me on like behavioral techniques and how to kind of approach it, as well as, you know, kind of more in the moment things. And my main therapist, she works with me on the big picture and connecting the whys with approaching, you know, the therapist I didn't click with. I had never had to tell a therapist I didn't click with them, so that was intimidating to me. But when I did, I felt so much better because, you know, through the sessions, I kind of would just feel like I'm not getting anything out of it. So it felt extremely frustrating. I finally worked up the courage to, and I told her, you know, I just feel like we're not clicking with what I need and with what you're providing. And she said, you know, that's completely fine. She said she has someone that she could connect me with, and it worked out pretty good. Honestly, I thought the world was gonna fall apart if I told her I couldn't work with her.
Iban terapeutas a la casa, el programa de rap, y pues sí, recibí mucha ayuda. Fuimos a clases de padres también, y eso nos ayudó bastante. Son gratis. Aprendes a decirles que pues los quieres mucho, y a veces uno no hace eso porque pues como uno crece así. Uno crece nunca te abraza, nunca te dicen, mira, mija, te quiero mucho. Uno crece así. Y uno mismo así es con los hijos. Yo de chica no tuve la oportunidad de tener terapeutas, de tener esa ayuda. Como en el caso de mi papá, que solamente Dios, obvio que Dios te puede ayudar, ¿no? Pero pues la salud mental supuestamente es para locos. Que eso no sirve, que eso no ayuda, que para él se niega rotundamente que eso no sirve.
There definitely has been a change because I'm learning about it as well as my mom. So my mom's trying to, you know, take care of herself and actually make time for things that she likes to do and helps her recharge. I definitely see it kind of rubbing off in my family because it's a wild idea, you know, making time for something that actually makes you feel like you're resting or, you know, recharging and everything. That sounds crazy, but it's definitely changed, and I love that it's changed because I know how burnout feels, and it feels terrible. Right now I'm in recovery. On Sunday I hit 150 days in recovery, and it definitely is not all that it seems. With most people that I've told I was in recovery, they think, you know, now you can eat 3 meals and you're just completely fine. It is completely not. You know, some days I feel like throwing my food across the table instead of eating it, and some days I feel like, you know, I got this, I can eat my 3 meals. I look forward to, you know, just hitting milestones, as well as I'd like to own a llama farm one day. But, you know, just seeing myself live up to my best self, because I know it's going to come eventually, and I know one day I'm going to be able to work in my bakery and not have to worry about food every second, and just feel that relief and not be in survival mode every second.
I think what's really important into bringing the suicide rate down would be talking about it in school at an earlier age, and not like suicide itself, but just mental health, letting children know, hey, if you're sad, this is what it could mean.
Kids start going to school at kindergarten, so why not start teaching children in kindergarten how to properly use their emotions?
And I definitely think that once you get to middle school, you're at that age where a teacher could start to talk to you about mental health, or in a science class, like a little bit of a psychology class, instead of just not knowing what it is that you're feeling. Because by the time you get to middle school, you're also going through puberty, things are changing. Like hormones can just make you depressed alone.
What I think could fix this is having what is said within the group or who is in the group confidential, but not making the existence of the group itself hidden. Make it known, have it shared in classrooms, and make it accessible, but keep the information said in there confidential.
Take the step anonymously as you can, because I know that accountability for speaking up on mental health, it's nerve-wracking. You don't want people to know that it's you. So do it anonymously until you can show your face and say that you want it yourself. The only person that can save you is yourself. If you want the help, you will get the help. You can't expect someone to come in and tell you you need help. You have to make that choice for yourself. If you're going in because people are telling you you need to do it, it's not going to work for you. You have to want the process to work in order for the process to work.
So if parents were curious instead of furious in responding to these behaviors, they could look a little deeper into what's going on with their child. Now, could you imagine if everybody were like that? If everybody had the empathy and the kindness and the education and awareness to accept and to love and to be open about mental health issues?
So after a long 2.5-year fight, we just recently found out that they have added 2 more therapists on campus, which is a start. You know, I'm grateful for the change. It's a good start, like I said, because they didn't completely comply, but they're listening. It took a lot of work and small changes made, but we're not going to stop here. We have a long way to go, but we're not going to stop here.